All right, so step 1 is prospecting. Step 2 is qualifying. Step 3, needs analysis. Your job as a salesperson is to use all of the tools at your disposal to help your prospects and clients solve their advertising and marketing problems in a mutually profitable way that it benefits them and it benefits you. Tool number 1 is your own medium and the audience that your programming attracts. What you're selling, in essence, as part of the solution to their problem, is the fact that you have an audience that the company and their message needs to reach out to. Tool number 2 is your own knowledge of the client and the client's business. Develop the relationship by recognizing who the business is, what their mission is, what their goals are, understanding some of the things that they are going through, and doing your best to be able to relate to the client on that particular level. There are 2 steps to gaining prior knowledge about a business. First off, doing your homework, doing your research on the client, on the business, on the industry, on the area in which they serve, the demographics of the clientele that they have, and asking questions. Using the things that you have learned to be able to ask deeper questions on things that you already know. Without that homework, you may never get to ask the questions. So you make sure you do as much research as you can in such a way that they get the sense that you actually kind of know a little something about them and what their needs may be when you're offering a product that you say will meet the needs of some of their problems. You should go into your appointment armed with no less than the prospect's company history, some idea of the business cycles in that industry, and a sense of the competition for the prospect's customers. Some very basic information that will help you to be able to establish that relationship of respect and trust. Sales trainer Chris Lytle suggests starting a client interview with a fact about the client's industry. Again, let them know what you know. Harvey McKay says have a list of questions, and perhaps some of them rather personal questions. So we're not necessarily just talking about having knowledge of the particular business. We're talking about having knowledge of the owner and the workers, kind of knowing what their temperament is. This will help you to be able to formulate certain strategies and how you present your material to them in a way that's going to be appealing to them on a personal level, as well as on a business level. Now, here's the trick though. You don't necessarily want to ask them the questions directly, especially the personal questions, but you do want to get your answers by doing research, by using clues in your conversation on top of the research that you do. Some things just kind of come out over the course of conversation, and the way that you guide that conversation may help that information to come across, and you can use that to your advantage. Mike McCaffrey believes that the single most effective selling tool you have is the ability to ask questions well, and he calls asking questions a highly learnable skill. To be inquisitive is to be genuinely interested in who a person is, what a company is, what they're all about, and to take in as much as you possibly can. When you ask questions, you take control of the conversation because you define who is going to talk and what the subject is. Most people like to talk about themselves and what they do. And if you ask questions about them, about what they do in a sincere way, most times they'll be willing to share with you what they're doing, especially if you're looking at asking what some of their successes are, what some of their goals are. Eventually you can ask about things like their challenges, all of which would be very, very helpful for you. The Radio Advertising Bureau offers 5 tips to ensure a successful consultancy call or needs analysis interview. And here's the list that they offer. First off, resist selling. Sounds counterintuitive, but if you're resisting selling on these initial visits, what you're doing, again, you're not trying to push something onto them, but you're actually trying to gain information that will help you to eventually make the big sale. Second, memorize as many of the questions that you have for them as possible. Be sure to ask those questions in the proper order so that it doesn't seem like it's been rehearsed and rehashed. You want it to come off as natural as you possibly can. Thirdly, be sure to customize or tailor the questions with client industry research. So the questions that you have should not be basic questions. You should know the basics before you go in, at least as much as possible. The questions you should have should be those that would be kind of more inside baseball, if you will, as someone that understands a little bit about who they are, what they're about, what their industry is all about. The questions that you ask should kind of point towards that vein that helps you to be able to gain insight on how they see it from their point of view. Fourthly, take copious notes as appropriate during the interview so that you can remember to include key findings in your subsequent presentation and show the prospect that you're really listening. Now, I say as appropriate here because some people may find it a bit intrusive or awkward if you're writing down a bunch of things in the middle of a conversation. It can be very helpful to you. Some people may see that as a compliment as you're taking notes on the things that they have to say. Others may find it kind of weird. So judge the situation that you're in, but whether you're writing things down or you're just listening very carefully and you're taking in all the things they have to say, at the very least make mental notes of the things that they're telling you. And finally, don't be hesitant to be enthusiastic about the prospect, the business, and your ability to help solve key marketing problems. Get excited. Get passionate about the things that they're passionate about. And if you show that in a genuine sort of way, they're going to be very appreciative of the time, the effort, the energy, the investment that you are making into them. All right, let's go now into the psychology of putting together a needs analysis. First off, you have to remember this. First and foremost, the customer is not paying for your product. He or she is paying for satisfactions, for having a problem solved for them, for increasing the amount of customers that they're reaching, and hopefully, ultimately, more business. So obviously that means that when we talk about satisfactions, we're talking about needs that would be satisfied from the perspective of our client. Maslow theorized that you and I are motivated by a desire to satisfy several needs at once. This is the hierarchy of needs. And he established this hierarchy that flows from bottom to top. So as we're reading through this list, we're actually going to start down at E and work our way up to A, because E is the fundamental basis of the hierarchy of needs. The first thing we need, the primary thing that we need, is to have our physiological needs met. We need food, clothing, shelter, air, water, all those sorts of things. If you've heard of a concept called the 4 walls, many of these things are included. The 4 walls are food, clothing, transportation, and shelter. Those things are absolute must-haves for everybody. It's physiological needs. Then safety and security. Safety and security is our need for a predictable, controlled environment. We need to feel like things are under control. We have need for social relationship. We have the need to belong. We have the need to be loved. As we talk about it in the business world, we need to feel respected, appreciated, that people see us as having something of value, being of value. Then we need esteem. Esteem is the need for respect from others and competence of self. So having a good self-image as well as others having a good image of us. And then at the top of the hierarchy is self-actualization, the realization of individual potential. This is when we've climbed all of the other needs, have gotten to the top, and have pretty much everything that we need. But the one is built on the other. If we have the sense of individual potential and we don't have our physiological needs met, then we actually haven't gotten our individual potential, because we have to have the very basics just in order to survive. And each of those items builds on the one previous to it. The basis of sales psychology is that needs are learned and can be triggered externally. Thus, good sellers develop an eye for clues that tell them how to react. So, what we're talking about here is that as we are learning about our client, as we're asking questions, as we're getting information, we're looking for things that we can use to help be able to create a certain thought or emotion about something, about trying to meet some of the needs that they have. And those things can only be determined after we've learned as much as we possibly can about the client. Warner and Buchanan offer specific examples for sellers of electronic media, and here is that list. First off, photos of the prospect and important people indicating a need for recognition. So if you see a lot of photographs when you're talking to a client, you might suggest that the prospect appear in commercials to give him or her exposure. If the prospect keeps you waiting and fields phone calls during your interview, there's a need for dominance, that they need to feel like they are in control. Pitch the dominance that a schedule will give the prospect's business. The more exposure, the more they'll benefit, the more power that they will have. Intelligent probing questions about the advertising you sell means the prospect needs understanding. Include lots of facts and figures in the presentation. Don't be afraid to talk about logistics, what's effective, what's not effective, and prove that with solid evidence. Sports analogies indicate a need for achievement. Position your medium as a means to win and to beat the competition. Provide abilities to be able to have the client talk about ways that they do certain things that the competition doesn't, or they do things better than the competition does. Talk about it from your side as well. What makes you better than another station? Why you and not somebody else? A bare desk indicates a need for order. Show that you are the salesperson with an eye for detail. So, a lot of people like people that are organized, people that have a sense of competency and know what they're talking about. Look for clues for that and provide that sense of order, of competency to make them feel comfortable. Asking questions. Today's selling environment is as much about questioning and listening as it is about presenting and closing. Your presentation is better targeted if your questioning skills are sharp and your listening skills are honed. So make sure that as you are having that conversation, both your questioning and your listening show that you are keenly interested in what your customer has to say. Greater discovery comes with open-ended questions, the ones that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. And usually open-ended questions begin with words like who, what, why, and how. So ask questions in such a way that they need to give you one or more sentences in order to be able to answer that question, because they'll be more descriptive in the way that they answer those questions, give you much more information in order for you to be able to put together an effective presentation that will benefit them. The objective of questioning is not to sell, but rather to find out what the prospect needs. In the words of Mike McCaffrey, the good seller first seeks to find problems rather than to sell solutions. You can't offer somebody a solution to a problem when you don't know what the problem is. So you have to be able to find out what the prospect needs from you and whether you'll be able to deliver that. It's important to transfer questions into action. The information you collect must be used as a well-targeted presentation that demonstrates to the prospect that you've not only asked your questions, but you're also understanding of the answers that he or she is providing. So you're taking the information that you have and you're turning it into that action step of a solution to the needs that they have. By using questions effectively, you as a seller can position your offering of an advertising plan as a solution that fits both sets of needs that the buyer has demonstrated, the need of product and the need of personal. There are 3 inviolable rules in question asking, according to Harold Balsmer. First off, never ask a question that the client cannot answer. You want to learn from the client. Don't trick them. Don't throw them a curveball. Give them questions that they can answer and can actually give you the ammunition you need with information. Second, never ask the same question twice. If you're asking a question over and over, it means you're not listening and not paying attention. You're wasting their time. Thirdly, never ask more than one question at a time. While you want open-ended answers, you don't need to make them feel like that they're in an essay or they have to jumble a lot of thoughts at one time. Deal with one thing at a time. Listening skills. You may develop the best questioning skills on the planet, but it counts for nothing if you can't listen to the answers. Listen to your client. Stephen Covey says most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They're either speaking or they're preparing to speak. In other words, we're so caught up in what it is that we want to say that we're not paying attention to what they are saying. Don't be that person. Ken Greenwood says it this way: salespeople who are good listeners focus on the other person. Really give them their full attention. Thus, the novice salesperson is likely not to pay attention. They merely wait for their time to talk. Kind of saying the same thing in a different way. We need to pay attention to what they are telling us in order to benefit them and to benefit us in a way that we can benefit them. Creating solutions. Remember, advertisers are not buying advertising. They're buying a business solution. We've been saying that over and over again. We'll probably say it throughout the semester. They are not looking to buy advertising for the sake of buying advertising. They're looking to solve a problem, which is a way to find increased customer base, increase sales, increase revenue, brand awareness, whatever their motivation is. They want a solution to how to achieve those goals. Your homework in your interview yields an outline that shows both the prospect's needs and clear ideas about how your medium gets the prospect's message to the target audience. The needs analysis also gives you direction for your proposal and presentation. The presentation is your face-to-face demonstration that you've created a solution that will bring your prospect more business. So we'll be talking more about how to develop needs analysis, what types of questions to ask, and that sort of thing. For now, though, we are going to stop, and the next video we'll pick up with step 4 of the sales cycle.